Titanfall Reloaded. Chapter 3. Retrieving the Gunsmith. Okay, so why are we here at some abandoned site? Allison asked for her communicator. We found some information. Blisk was hired some black market red-listed gunsmith to make a very powerful Titan weapon, the commander stated. So find the guy, find the weapon, stop the guy, Blisk is screwed. Allison replied. Basically, yeah, just get it done. Maybe this guy knows where Blisk is, the commander questioned. The commander's words rang in Allison's mind. She knew he was right. She gripped her Volt rifle and stepped off the transporter with MZ following. They looked around as the transporter flew off. They were on a mountainside, the building built with inside the mountain. They walked around the massive wall. They could see there was only one small window, a small square, but big enough for Allison to smash through. Yo, MZ, throw me through there so I can start looking around for this gunsmith, Allison ordered. Of course, pilot, MZ replied. MZ knelt down, placed his hand down, allowing Allison to jump into its palm. MZ stood up and used his other hand to point his finger at the window, aiming his pilot correctly. The Titan then threw Allison with enough force to propel her forward, but not enough to make sure the landing hurt. Allison flew through the air and glided through the window, smashing through the glass. She hit the ground and rolled across to secure her landing. Two guards burst in and started firing their guns. Allison quickly jumped up and fired her Volt rifle, instantly hitting both of them in the head, killing them. Both guards jumped to the ground. Allison ran over to take their ammo clips, and she quietly stepped out of the room and ventured through the corridor. It was very quiet. Maybe too quiet. The door opened and a flashbang grenade came flying out of the small creak of the door. It bounced across the floor and exploded in a flash of light. Allison was hit by the flash as she stumbled backwards as her vision was stolen by the white veil of light. Damn it! She groaned. A soldier burst out of the corridor. He ran up to Allison and punched her in the helmet. She staggered backwards. She aimlessly fired her rifle. Her bolts randomly hit the walls. The soldier glided his fist into her stomach, winding her. She dropped to her knees. The soldier then kicked her in the stomach with enough force to send her flying back. Allison stumbled. As she stood, she removed her helmet and rubbed her eyes, enabling some form of vision to return. She pulled out a kunai and threw it to hit the soldier in the shoulder. The kunai released a static surge of electricity which stunned the soldier in place. Allison's vision finally returned to normal, and she saw the man stood before her. He was mostly a jacked, muscly menace, but one of his arms was cybernetic. The robot arm charged with electricity. The man grunted in pain, but he managed to remove the kunai, and his robot arm tensed and flexed, but it was now in full working order. You're not gonna get the gunsmith. He's ours, the soldier said. Wait, what? He's a hostage? Allison asked. Well, yeah, you really think a smart-minded baboon like him would willingly work for us? The soldier replied. Ah, crap, Allison snapped. Now die, bitch! The soldier barked. He pulled out a revolver and aimed it. He fired it. Allison leapt to one side of the corridor, dodging the shot. She grabbed her Volt rifle and shot the soldier. He pulled out a smoke grenade and threw it at her. She shot it in midair, which triggered the explosion. Smoke engulfed the corridor, and she heard the door slam as the soldier escaped. Allison coughed as she scurried through the smoke to locate her helmet. She shimmered it back on, and the helmet enabled her to breathe. Then she pressed her communicator. Commander, sending some video footage. I need to know who this guy is, she said. She pressed the side of her helmet and the footage was sent over. After a couple of seconds, the commander responded. This is Hawk. His arm is far too advanced to be legal. He went off grid a few months ago. Makes no sense why he would be working with the gunsmith, though, the commander replied. He ain't working with him. He's Hawk's hostage, Allison replied. Alright, yes, that does complicate things, doesn't it? The commander sighed. I'll have to save him, obviously. Maybe as a debt of gratitude he can tell us why Bliss needs a new Titan weapon, Allison said. Alright, keep us posted, the commander replied. Allison cut the communicator and followed Hawk through the door and walked into an abandoned weapon factory. Walls upon walls holding almost functioning weapons. Allison walked up to one of the racks and ran her hand over the guns. Wow. These would have been so cool, Allison muttered. Suddenly, the sound of shouting echoed throughout the room. She gripped her Volt rifle tightly and aimed it as she followed the sound. She entered the next room, and it was a large room filled with junk, tables shoved together, cluttered with tools and gun parts and random gizmos that Allison didn't understand or didn't know the name of. Hawk was stood there barking orders at the gunsmith, telling him to pack the essentials and to hurry up as their ship was fastly approaching. The gunsmith was tall, lanky, and a rather older gentleman, with white hair that clung around his head but refused to touch the bald spot that was very evidently sat on top of his scalp. "Come on, move it!" Hawk barked. The gunsmith grabbed a rather large bulging bag. They both opened the door on the far side of the room, which revealed a narrow pathway leading to a landing pad that clung onto the side of the mounting. "Hey, Hawk! Let the gunsmith go!" Allison barked. Both Hawk and the gunsmith turned around to see Allison knelt in the doorway, gun aimed. Hawk aimed his revolver and fired it. Allison leant back. The door closed ever so slightly. The rim of the door caught the bullet. "Move!" Hawk ordered as he shoved the gunsmith through the door. Both of them started jogging down the pathway. "MZ, get my location now," Allison muttered through her communicator. "On my way, pilot," MZ replied through the comms. Allison stood up and ran through the room. She slid across a table, knocking everything off of it as she did. She reached the door and opened it. Hawk stopped in his tracks and fired his revolver again and again, but the wind current swayed his shots, making them miss. Allison aimed her rifle and pulled the trigger, but missed her shots as well. Hawk grabbed the gunsmith and pulled him in front of him, using him as a human shield. "Careful, pilot! You don't want to have an accident now here, do you?" Hawk yelled out. "Give up, Hawk!" Allison replied. She advanced down the path as Hawk and the gunsmith walked backwards. A ship came breaking through the clouds and it landed on the landing pad. The door opened, waiting for Hawk and his human shield. Allison holstered her rifle to her back and she pulled out her dad's pistol. Then she ran at Hawk and the gunsmith, who was also speeding up their pace. They reached the ship and Hawk shoved the gunsmith inside. Hawk pulled out a detonator and pressed the device. There were several explosions that rippled through under the pathway. Rocks fell down the mountain. "You rigged this thing with explosives? Are you insane?" Allison roared as the ground beneath her started to crumble. She kept moving one step in front of the other. Hawk stepped onto the ship and the ship started levitating off the landing pad. Allison aimed her wrist as the ship started ascending. She fired her grapple hook, which hit the rear end of the ship, and the ship took off. Being as careful as possible and moving very slowly, the explosions kept erupting as Allison held on tight. The entire factory exploded piece by piece, room by room. The entire mountain shook, rocks started to fall. Allison was pulled off her feet and pulled off the landing pad, just as it crumbled away, joining the falling rocks. Allison flew through the air. She tried to pull herself along the grapple wire, but the brute force of the tailwind was making the task extremely difficult. The rear door opened and Hawk grabbed the grapple hook and snapped it, and then pulled the wire, yanking Allison through the air. She came flying towards him and he swung his metallic arm. His robotic fist hit Allison right in the chest. She felt several of her ribs crack under the brute force of the punch. The momentum threw her back as she fell down towards the rock slide. She tried to grab onto something, anything, but she couldn't. She saw MZ wall running against the mountain. He leapt forward, his thrusters ignited, propelling him forward. He grabbed onto Allison out of the air and his torso opened up and he placed Allison inside. She then was injected with a needle which numbed the pain instantly. "Health stim injected. Giving you control, pilot," MZ said. "Thanks, pal. We're gonna thrash this guy," Allison barked. They watched as the rocks came tumbling down. It crashed into the ship, knocking it off its course. As MZ glided through the air ever so slowly, losing altitude, he pulled out his sword and swung it, sending an arc wave. The wave cut through the ship, cutting it cleanly in half. MZ then sheathed the sword and dove forward, falling fast towards the gunsmith and Hawk, who both were twirling through the air with increased speed. MZ held out both hands and grabbed both of them. He held onto both of them close to his chest as he tucked in his legs and fell to the ground. As he got closer, he ignited his thrusters once again and hit the ground, stumbling through the trees. He rolled forward, dropping both men as he did. MZ stood and looked up. Allison saw more explosions rippling through the mountain. There was so much history filled in that factory, and now it's all gone. Allison sighed. MZ turned to see Hawk and the gunsmith climbing to their feet. The gunsmith had a piece of shrapnel sticking out of his leg, which was now covered in blood as it seeped out of the wound. Hawk stood and roared a loud blood-curdling roar, he ran at MZ and launched himself into the air, his robotic fist clenched and drawn back, ready to take a hit on the Titan. MZ threw out his own fist, the massive Titan fist hit Hawk dead on, sending him flying back. His body hit a rather large tree trunk with enough brute force that the bark cracked. There was a sharp, quick snap and Hawk's body hit the dry mud. Commander, Hawk's dead. I have the gunsmith. We are ready for extraction. Good luck looking for us, though, Allison said into her communicator. Pickup is on the way. Good job, the commander replied. MZ knelt down and opened up. Allison climbed out of her Titan and landed on the ground. She walked over to the gunsmith and helped him sit down on a fallen log. She removed her helmet and introduced herself to the man she was hoping that had some form of an answer on why Bliss needed a new Titan weapon, and hopefully had an answer on where her father was.
What you have just listened to is a product created by the Three Ranger Bros Studio.
Hosted by three cosplaying fathers who
happen to be massive geeks of all sorts of fandoms.
They are Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger,
Cosplay Dude 637,
and Tai Tiger.
The studio covers different types of YouTube videos, TikToks, podcasts, and live streams.
If you wish to find out who cosplays who, the YouTube channel, the TikTok accounts, and the podcasts, and all of the other social media platforms,
please go to the 3rangerBroStudios.com.